The hardest part about being married to a species that could regenerate limbs wasn't the medical bills. It was explaining to your wife why you kept flinching every time she casually tore off a fingernail to use as a toothpick. Lieutenant Simon Fisk of Earth Defense Special Forces stood in the kitchen of their habitat module, watching his wife Kathara methodically peel away the chitinous plating on her forearm to scratch an itch underneath. She hummed contentedly, the sound somewhere between a purr and a garbage disposal, while their morning coffee brewed in the background. "Babe," Simon said, gripping the counter, "please tell me you're going to put that back on." Kathara's three golden eyes swiveled to look at him, her elongated neck twisting in that way that still made his stomach drop even after 2 years of marriage. A thin membrane slid sideways across each eye, her species' version of a blink. "Eventually," she said. "Why do you ask in that voice?" "What voice?" "The voice you use when you're trying not to vomit." She flexed her exposed muscle tissue experimentally, and Simon watched it pulse with bioluminescent patterns. "Is this about the dinner party again?" "Kathara, you literally removed your entire hand at the wrist to reach the bottom of a Pringles can." "And I got the last chip." She set down her plating with a wet thunk on the countertop, right next to where Simon had been preparing toast. "Your friend Derek said it was sick." "Derek says everything is sick. He once called a court-martial sick." Simon moved the toast to a safer location. "The ambassador's wife fainted." "The ambassador's wife is Deltharian. They faint if you sneeze too loud." Kathara's mandibles clicked in what he'd learned was laughter. "Besides, you knew I was Shekari when you married me. I told you about the regeneration on our third date. You said you healed fast. You didn't say you could pop off body parts like a kid's action figure." Kathara slithered closer. Her species didn't exactly walk so much as flow across surfaces using thousands of tiny cilia. She wrapped her intact arm around his waist, tucking her elongated head against his shoulder. "You're adorable when you're squeamish," she said. "I've disarmed fusion bombs. I'm not squeamish. You screamed last week when I molted in the shower. You left your entire outer skin in there. It had your face." The coffee maker beeped, saving Simon from further mortification. He poured 2 cups, adding an alarming amount of sugar to Kathara's. Her species metabolized glucose like humans breathed oxygen. She reattached her arm plating with a series of wet clicks that Simon tried very hard not to hear. "Speaking of things with faces," Kathara said, accepting her coffee mug. "Your mother called again," Simon groaned. "What did she want this time? To know when we're giving her grandbabies?" Kathara's laughed, capturing the teasing in her tone, but Simon had learned to read the subtle shift in her bioluminescent patterns, currently flashing through amused yellows and oranges. "I told her we're still deciding." "And?" She asked if I laid eggs or gave birth. "No." Then asked what the gestation period was. "Please stop." Then asked if the babies would have your nose or my mandibles. Kathara set down her coffee, all three eyes fixed on him. "Simon, are we actually thinking about this? Or are we just thinking about it?" It was the million-credit question, wasn't it? Simon had spent 3 weeks in a Proxima Centauri hospital after getting turned into Swiss cheese by plasma fire, but somehow this conversation felt more dangerous. He took a long sip of coffee, buying time. "I mean," he started, then stopped, started again. "The genetics alone are compatible, we checked, remember, with Dr. Yenthar, the guy who kept all his medical tools inside his body. He's a very respected xenogeneticist." He pulled a scanner out of his stomach. "Kathara, you're deflecting." She moved closer, her cilia making that soft, rustling sound against the floor. "Talk to me." Simon set down his coffee and turned to face her fully. Even after 2 years, she was still beautiful in that way that made his brain stutter, like looking at a sunset on an alien world, familiar enough to comprehend, but strange enough to leave him breathless. Her crystalline exoskeleton caught the morning light, scattering it into tiny rainbows across the kitchen. "I'm scared," he admitted. "Not of you, or of having kids with you. I'm scared I'll screw it up. Human kids are hard enough. What if our kid needs to molt, and I accidentally vacuum them up with the shed skin? What if they can regenerate, and I rush them to the hospital every time they lose a tooth? What if—" Kathara pressed a chitinous finger to his lips, cutting off his spiral. "What if they're perfect?" she said softly. "What if they get your stupid sense of humor and my ability to regrow limbs? What if they grow up in a universe where a human soldier and a Shekari engineer falling in love in a dive bar is just normal?" That bar had 3 knife fights that night. 4. You missed one in the bathroom. Her mandibles clicked. "You also missed the part where I fell for you because you looked at me, really looked, and didn't see a monster. You saw someone worth buying a drink." Someone worth getting court-martialed over when you went AWOL to meet me at the transport station. I didn't get court-martialed, just demoted. My point stands. She took both his hands in hers, careful with her strength. I'm scared too, but I'm more scared of not trying, of waking up in 20 cycles wondering what we missed out on. Simon pulled her close, resting his forehead against the smooth curve of her neck plating. She smelled like ozone and cinnamon, an impossible combination that somehow worked. Okay, he said. Let's do it. Let's have a weird alien-human hybrid baby who'll probably give both our families heart attacks. That's the romantic spirit I married. The moment was perfect, right up until Kathara's personal comm unit started shrieking. They both jumped, and Simon's coffee went flying, painting an abstract pattern across the wall. Kathara's face shifted through several colors Simon had learned meant very bad things. It's command, she said. Your command and mine. They looked at each other for exactly 3 seconds before sprinting to the comm terminal. The screen flickered to life, showing Commander Williams's stern face split screen with Kathara's superior, Admiral Zavara, who had more tentacles than Simon could comfortably count. Williams's jaw was tight. We have a situation. The mining colony on Titan's moon just went dark. Initial scans show massive quantum distortions. Reality itself is coming apart at the seams. The Shekari Science Collective detected it simultaneously, Zavara added, their translator rendering their aqueous speech into clipped syllables. Whatever is happening, it's pulling matter from multiple dimensions. We're reading entire sections of space that shouldn't exist. Simon felt Kathara tense beside him. Sir, my specialty is engine design, not dimensional physics. Your combined specialty is improvising the impossible, Williams interrupted. Fisk, your unit has experience with exotic threats. Kathara, you once reprogrammed a reactor core using nothing but salvaged parts and spite. Intelligence suggests this isn't an attack, it's a malfunction. A prototype dimensional drive that went catastrophically wrong. They need us, Simon said quietly. Together, Kathara confirmed. The mission brief was simple in concept, nightmarish in execution. Get to the colony, shut down the drive before it turned that entire section of space into a dimensional blender, extract whoever was still alive. Standard Thursday, really, except for the part where physics had decided to take a vacation. Within 12 hours, they were on site doing what they did best. Kathara rerouted power systems, while he and his unit held off the reality warp defense systems that had turned hostile. What mattered was that Kathara figured out the drive was stuck in a feedback loop, convinced it was still initializing when it had actually been running for 6 hours. Her solution: rip out the secondary processor, literally tear it from its housing with her bare hands, and use her own body's electrical system to trick the drive into thinking it had completed its startup sequence. Simon watched, heart in his throat, as she plunged her hands into the glowing core, her body lighting up like a Christmas tree as megawatts of power coursed through her regenerative system. The drive shut down. Reality snapped back into place with an almost audible pop. Kathara collapsed, smoking slightly, her exoskeleton cracked in 17 places. But she was already regenerating, already healing, already giving him a thumbs up with a hand. She'd regrown in the 3 minutes since he'd started running toward her. 3 days later, they sat in their kitchen again, watching news feeds of the Galactic Council trying to figure out how to classify what had happened. Human ingenuity combined with Shekari adaptability had saved 847 lives, but the Council couldn't decide whether to praise them or file 17 different incident reports about protocol violations. They're terrified, Kathara observed, watching a councillor's tentacles twist in bureaucratic anxiety. They built all these rules about how species should interact, keep their distance, maintain clear boundaries. And here we are, completely ignoring them and somehow making it work. Simon squeezed her hand, the one that had literally been vaporized 3 days ago and was now good as new. So, he said, about that kid. Kathara's bioluminescence shifted to a warm, contented gold. Let's give the galaxy something else to worry about. Because sometimes the most revolutionary act in the universe isn't saving it. It's building something beautiful in the spaces between the rules and daring the cosmos to tell you you're doing it wrong. After all, love doesn't ask permission. It just regenerates.